Chapter 12, Section 2, The Origins of Progressivism. By 1900, industrialists, urbanization, and immigration were contributing to great changes in American life. These changes brought new opportunities, but also created new problems, particularly in cities. The progressives took action in response to these problems. They wanted to improve society by promoting social welfare, protecting the environment, and making government more efficient and democratic. The progressives had great faith in the future and strong belief in the nation's founding ideals. They wanted to put those ideals into practice. President Woodrow Wilson described these goals in a speech in 1913. "We have been refreshed by new insights into our own life. We have made up our minds to square every process of our national life again with the standards we so proudly set up at the beginning and have always carried at our hearts. Our work is a work of restoration." Woodrow Wilson, Inaugural Address of 1913. Progressives see problems and seek solutions. Progressives worried about the growing problems they saw in society and were determined to solve them. Until then, responsibility for addressing such issues did not lie with the government. Taking a new approach, the progressives became activists who were prepared to use political action to achieve reforms. They wanted the government to solve society's problem. Most progressives were urban, middle class, and college educated. The great majority were white and many were women. The progressives included people with many different ideas about what to reform, how to reform it, and how far reform should go. They represented many smaller reform movements rather than joining together as a single movement. But they all shared a commitment to progress and the belief that they could improve society. The political and religious roots of progressivism. The progressives were inspired by two reform movements of the late 1800s. One was a political movement called populism. The other was a religious movement called the social gospel. Progressivism and populism had much in common, though their social origins were different. Populism was primarily a rural movement, whereas progressivism was born mainly among the urban middle class. Despite this difference, progressives embraced many populist goals. They wanted to improve conditions for farmers and industrial workers. They wanted to curb the power of big business and make government more accessible to average citizens. They also sought to expand economic opportunity and make American society more democratic. Many progressives were also inspired by the religious ideals of the social gospel movement. This movement was based on the idea that social reform and Christianity went hand in hand. Followers of the social gospel applied Christian teachings to social and economic problems. They believed, for example, that the single-minded pursuit of wealth had taken some Americans down the wrong moral path. Walter Rauschenbusch, a social gospel minister, described the problem this way: "If a man sacrifices his human dignity and self-respect to increase his income, he is denying God. Likewise, if he uses up and injures the life of his fellow men to make money for himself, he denies God. But our industrial order makes property the end and man the means to produce it." Walter Rauschenbusch, Christianity and the Social Crisis, 1907. Followers of the social gospel believed that society must take responsibility for those who are less fortunate. Many progressives embrace this ideal and infuse their reform efforts with a strong emphasis on Christian morality. The progressive challenge to social Darwinism. Progressives strongly oppose social Darwinism, the social theory based loosely on Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. Darwin had written that in nature only the fittest survive. Social Darwinists believed that in human society, the fittest individuals and corporations would thrive, while others would fall behind. They asserted that the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of business owners and monopolies reflected the natural order. In rejecting social Darwinism, progressives argued that domination by the rich and powerful was a distortion of democracy. They declared that most Americans were harmed when monopolies controlled the economy and corrupted politics. Progressives believed that government should play an active role in defending the political and economic rights of average citizens against the power of big business. They also wanted government to promote social reforms to clean up the cities and help those in need. Although progressives criticized big business, most were not radicals. Unlike many socialists, they believed in private enterprise. They thought that government should balance the interests of business owners and workers while promoting order and efficiency. They favored helping the needy, but also believed that aid should go to those willing to help themselves. Although some radical reformers worked with the progressives generally pursued moderate political goals.